If you have God, why do you need therapy? Now, this question is one that gets asked a lot. So let's address it. Welcome to the Unstuck Podcast. I'm your host, Drew Koss. And as always, you guys are going to probably see an entrance from the co host, Aaliyah, my 4-year-old. So brace yourselves. Now, let's look at this subject that gets a lot of, I don't want to say slack, but it gets misconstrued. So the question is, if I got God, why do I need therapy? Now, when we talk about I have God, this is someone who believes in God, who serves God. And when we talk about therapy, this is a therapist who helps people get past different types of trauma, problems, and things like that. I'll start off by saying having God doesn't mean you shouldn't have therapy. I believe they serve two different, I don't want to say phases, but I believe strongly they serve two different parts in you. I believe God does healing. I believe God and the Spirit of God does do a lot of inner work, does give you a lot of answers in the Bible. One of my favorite verses that I lean on a lot is Philippians 4:6. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. So I believe those things. I believe what therapy does is give you a lot of language and gives you the ability to see what has happened and what could be done with what has happened. I don't think you should have one or the other. I believe having both will give you a better life. That's just my opinion. Now, people have had bad experiences with therapy. People have had bad experiences with what they would say is God, which is really the church. And we cannot think because we've had one bad experience with one or the other that it's all bad. That's equivalent to saying if I've eaten at a restaurant before and it's not good, I'm going to never go back to any restaurant. I'm pretty sure some of your favorite restaurants that you've gone to, all of the experiences have not been the greatest, but you went back because things happen. Now, let's look at, if I have God, why would I want a therapist? If I have a therapist, why would I want God? If I have God, why would I want a therapist? A lot of times you don't realize what trauma was in your life. You don't realize how you saw things and how things played out in your life, how they were traumatic events. You could have been thinking, this is just the way things was. This is just the way it is. And it could really be trauma. Not processed, that trauma will turn into how you see life, how you see the world, your perspective. Like most of the times, people who have grown up not a lot of money or just some form of poverty, they see the world through scarcity. And if that trauma isn't processed, you'll always see the world through scarcity. A therapist can help you see what happened, how it's affecting you now, how it will keep affecting you if you don't address it, and what you could possibly do to get past it. So the magic isn't in the therapist. The magic is in the questioning, the listening, the probing, the getting to the underlying issue. That's really what it is. When we think that therapy will supersede God, I personally believe deep-rooted healing will have to happen with God first. There are things that only the Spirit of God can heal, and if you want to debate it in the comments, you're going to be debating by yourself because I don't have time to debate it. This is my belief. You could do all sorts of things to try to bring healing, but I believe healing comes from God first. Yes, you might get it revealed from therapy or revealed from somebody else, but I believe bringing your soul and your spirit back to your maker, which is God, and asking for restoration, for healing, I believe that's the ultimate way to do it. That's just my beliefs. Feel free to share yours if you want to argue about it. Again, I don't want to argue. I would gladly listen to your belief, but this is just mine. The question that used to come up like that back in the day, especially with the church, was you got Jesus, you don't need anybody else, which is not true. You need other humans, you need other qualified listeners, which I refer to therapy or therapists as people who are qualified to listen and help you get past a certain point. And I said qualified because a lot of times we're only talking to friends, and our friends are biased. Our friends are for us. So anything that we say, they're like, yeah, that person was wrong. They should have known. Or they're just not listening to hear the underlying issue. They're just listening to let you vent, and that's it. So we need both. With the church, it's usually not accepted quickly because of what it used to be back in the day. Back in the day, it used to be if you went to a therapist and you sat and you laid on the couch, you're going to go crazy, or you're going to become addicted to doing that. Now, I've never been in therapy when I sat and I laid on the couch. I would probably fall asleep, but I've been to therapy where I've sat and I've talked to my therapist, who was a Christian therapist. With the church, in that it can be a battle, because the goal is not to get you addicted to the therapist. The goal is to get you to be able to process with somebody so you can get help. And I also don't believe that you have to be in therapy all of your life. That's just my belief. I'm still actively in therapy, but I'm just saying that. So please don't shoot me down. Now, from the therapy standpoint, some therapists do bring spirituality inside of their practices, whether it's a Christian spirituality or Buddhist spirituality or whatever it may be. Some therapists do bring that in there. I would love to see a therapist and a pastor together talking about the subject. I would love to see a therapist and a pastor talking about the benefits that you get from both, so that we have well-rounded people. The church is amazing at helping you spiritually, but I'm just going to be honest, the church isn't amazing at helping with the other parts of your life that you live with Monday through Saturday. So they're amazing at helping you spiritually, but the part that needs the most help and the part that needs to get better is usually your mental and your physical, and the church doesn't deal with that. So I've always believed if a therapist, a pastor, and a trainer could do work together, or a life coach, it would be amazing. Amazing. Maybe that will happen, but until that happens, it will be amazing. So that's my idea on, if you got God, do you need therapy? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say you need both. I'm going to always advocate for good therapists, and I'm going to always advocate for good pastoring or spiritual leaders, because I believe you need it. They both can get a bad rep, but if we think about it, there's no field, there's no industry in the world that doesn't get a bad rep of some sort. Every industry. To wrap up, I'll show you an experience that happened with me. I've been a Christian for a while. I've fought through things, gone through things, processed things on my own. But when I did my first therapy session, it felt like I have never thought about those things that I had gone through that deeply. It felt like a whole new world had opened up. And quite frankly, I was like, what have I been burying for this long? I've never would have had those things come up like my therapist allowed me to process in the session. And over the months, just unpacking and working through things and doing the work, it made me even see my relationship with God differently. It made me see people differently. It made me realize that people are complex. People are fighting real things. And if you're not careful, you'll become so wrapped up spiritually and forget that people are fighting real things that you have no idea about. A lot has happened in people's childhood that you have no idea about. And with all of that, we have to realize that complex humans might need these issues to be helped by therapists and God. I'm not going to say one or the other. I'm going to say both. So in a nutshell, I'm an advocate for therapy. I'm an advocate for God. If you're seeing this, depending on when you're seeing this, we are opening soon a Bible study virtually where we talk about God through the scriptures, and we talk about real life through the scriptures and help people find real answers, because you're just not a one-part human being. You have mind, body, and soul. And if you don't get all three of those things helped, if you don't get all three of those parts of you healthy, you'll live life missing out. You'll live life not at your fullest potential. We want you to live life, as my big sister would say, at full wattage. Get unstuck, guys. Go be great.